Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another thought provoking episode of the Super Gringo Podcast. Thrilled to have you here as we dive into some of the most pressing issues facing our society today. Now, let me ask you this. When you think about who should be entrusted with teaching our children, our future, what comes to mind? Stability, empathy, respect? Or does the thought send shivers down your spine when you consider the alarming incidents we've seen lately? Educators sharing violent sentiments and personal details that have no place in the classroom. Imagine for a moment that we're on a journey through an amusement park. You step on a roller coaster called education. And as it climbs higher and higher, you can't help but wonder who's strapped in next to your child. Because let's be honest, folks, it's not just about academics anymore. It's about creating nurturing environments led by responsible adults who model what it means to be grounded, compassionate, and above all, safe. Now, I know that discussing mental health and education can stir up some strong reactions, and that's good. It's like watching a reality show unfold right before your eyes. Each twist and turn in public discourse reveals something valuable about ourselves and each other. Remember Socrates? The guy knew a thing or two about engaging in tough conversations. He thrived on debate. He welcomed dissent because he understood that through dialogue comes understanding. But let's pivot for a second. Have you noticed how easy it is these days to throw around labels like Nazi or fascist? It's become almost fashionable, hasn't it? But here's the kicker. Those labels don't define us. They distract us from the authentic conversation. Instead of allowing negativity to cloud our judgment, let's turn it into fuel for growth. We have to embrace authenticity over external judgments because at the end of the day, isn't that what true connection is all about? As we navigate this complex landscape of education and public discourse, let's not forget our identity as Americans, a proud commercial republic. Picture this. Commerce isn't just about dollars and cents, it's intertwined with governance itself. Think back to Alexander Hamilton's bold economic strategies or how the open door policy reshaped international relations with China. These historical moments remind us how trade influences not just our economy, but also national security. Consider the Great Depression, a time when isolationism crumbled under pressure and gave way to global interdependence. Initiatives like the Lend-Lease Act during the World War II didn't just save nations, they safeguarded American interests too. And then there was the Marshall Plan, a brilliant blend of altruism and economic strategy that helped Europe rise from the ashes while bolstering economic American prosperity. So here we are today navigating contemporary trade agreements like USMCA, which are reflections of America's commercial identity. But make no mistake, we have a role in shaping policies that align economic interests with national security while tackling global challenges together. Now, as I wrap up this opener for today's episode of the Super Gringo Podcast, I urge you all to embrace engagement over dismissal. Let your voices be heard. Let curiosity guide your conversations. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So let's stand together as responsible citizens committed to ensuring our children learn from stable adults in safe environments. Join me on this journey. Let's spark discussions that matter and shape America's future as a thriving commercial republic. Why are we allowing individuals who struggle with mental illness to teach our children? This isn't merely a rhetorical question, it's a call for reflection, a call for action. Recently, I came across a video that I would like to say left me both shocked and bewildered, but in these modern times, no. In it, a teacher, yes, a teacher, was caught on camera threatening our president. And let me tell you, this individual looked exactly as one might expect if they had applied their makeup with a stapler and styled their hair to resemble an Easter egg. But beyond the superficial appearance lies something far more troubling. When educators use their platform to express violent sentiments or share inappropriate personal details, including sexual preferences, with impressionable 6 year olds, we have to ask ourselves, is this truly the environment we want for our children? Think about it. Our schools are supposed to be sanctuaries of learning where young minds are nurtured and guided by responsible adults who model stability, empathy, and respect. Yet here we find ourselves in an era where some educators seem more intent on expressing their personal grievances than fostering an atmosphere conducive to education. This isn't just concerning, it's alarming. Now, I understand that mental health is a complex issue. We have to approach this topic with compassion. However, compassion does not mean complacency. It's crucial that we draw clear boundaries about who should be entrusted with shaping the minds of future generations. Excuse me. Are we willing to risk our children's emotional well-being in order to be politically correct? Are we prepared to ignore warning signs simply because they come wrapped in the guise of acceptance? Let's remember the words of former President Ronald Reagan: freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. If we allow instability and inappropriate behaviors into our classrooms under the veil of acceptance, what kind of future are we creating? I urge each one of you here today, parents, educators, community leaders, to stand up and demand higher standards for those who educate our children. We need policies that ensure that everyone entrusted with this sacred responsibility possesses not only qualifications, but also emotional stability and sound judgments. Let's get them out of our schools. If you want to know why there are school shootings, this might be a little hint. Something I find both amusing and enlightening: the presence of those vehemently disagree with me, particularly from the left, during my live videos. You see, when they show up, oh, what a spectacle it is. It's like watching a reality show where every plot twist is predictable. They come armed with insults that often lack depth, insults as thin as a sheet of paper or as shallow as a mud puddle. And yet, amidst this barrage of barbs and jabs, there lies an unexpected silver lining. Why do I enjoy this? Because their reactions validate my points. Their comments become content, a rich tapestry woven from their attempts to discredit what I say, not by countering anything I say, just by calling names. In fact, it's almost poetic when you think about it. Basically, they validate my assertion that the left is poorly educated but totally indoctrinated. There will be no truth to what they say. Basically, it's what I like to call bomb throwing. Basically, just insults from the poorly educated but totally indoctrinated. 40% of all high school graduates cannot read above a sixth grade level, an actual statistic from the Department of Education. If you want to find them, you just come over to my live streams and read the chat, where they will validate that statistic. Let me ask you this: have you ever encountered someone so passionately opposed to their views that their very fervor made you question your own beliefs? Or perhaps they only serve to strengthen your convictions. It's fascinating how disagreement can serve as a catalyst for growth. When I call them loony, it's not just for shock value. It's an acknowledgement of how far removed some arguments can be from rational discourse. We have to remember that in our pursuit of truth and understanding, we should engage rather than dismiss. Just think about it. History teaches us valuable lessons about engagement. Consider Socrates. He thrived on dialectic methods that challenged his contemporaries' beliefs through relentless questioning. He understood that discomfort could lead to clarity. He welcomed debate not just as a sport, but as an essential tool for uncovering deep truths. Let's talk about something that's been swirling around in the digital ether lately. You know what I mean? The "you're a Nazi" comments flying around like confetti at a parade. It's almost like a badge of honor these days to be labeled by someone who doesn't agree with you. But here's my response: whatever. Now, let me unpack that for you. When I say whatever, I'm not just brushing aside their insults. I'm embracing a mindset that says, I won't let your words dictate my reality. You see, While they're busy flinging labels and throwing tantrums in the comment section, I'm still waking up every day to my beautiful wife beside me. My retirement check still arrives on time every month. Thank you very much. And guess what? I've lost zero friends because of it. In fact, I've gained no friends because of it either. So let me ask you this: why should we care about these labels? Why should we let someone else's opinion define our worth or our beliefs? Isn't it time we stop allowing ourselves to be influenced by those who thrive on chaos and division? Here's the kicker: all this noise from the loony leftists only validates why I call them that in the first place. Their frantic outbursts provides endless material for content on this channel, and honestly, it's amusing. It's like watching a dog chase its tail. Entertaining, but ultimately pointless. Think about historical figures who faced a similar backlash for standing firm in their beliefs. Martin Luther King Jr., for example. He faced relentless criticism and name calling for advocating civil rights. Did he back down? No. He pushed forward with his message of equality and justice. You notice I didn't say equity. He famously said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." That's powerful. And while I'm not comparing myself to him directly, his spirit of resilience inspires us all. So, how do we respond when people label us? With indifference, with strength, with an unwavering commitment to our values and principles, just like King did. Now, here's where you come in. I want each one of you to embrace your own, whatever, response. Next time someone tries to label you or diminish your voice based on their own prejudices, just smile and say it with me. Whatever. Because at the end of the day, if you're living authentically and staying true to yourself, that's what truly matters. Let's flip the narrative together. Let's take these moments of negativity and transform them into fuel for our fire, the fire that drives us towards growth, understanding, and connection beyond labels. Let's fit coffee. More. Let's face it, the idea of America as a commercial republic might just ruffle some feathers. But isn't that what makes it so fascinating? Picture this: a nation built on the principles of capitalism and democracy, where the hustle and bustle of trade shapes our identity and values. From the bustling markets of colonial times to today's tech giants, commerce has woven itself into the very fabric of American life. But what does this really mean for our society, our politics, and even our personal lives? As we dive into this topic, prepare to challenge some long held beliefs and maybe even spark a little debate, because understanding America's commercial roots can change how you see everything from your morning coffee to global politics. Imagine a world where the lifeblood of a nation pulsates through the veins of its commerce. A world where trade isn't merely an economic activity, but the very foundation upon which governance stands. Today, we delve into a concept that has shaped our nation's identity and continues to influence global dynamics: the commercial republic. The term commercial republic refers to a political and economic system where commerce plays a central role in governance and international relations. It's an idea woven into the fabric of our history by the founding fathers, who understood that a strong economy would be paramount to ensuring our nation's prosperity and security. Consider this: what drives nations to forge alliances or engage in conflicts? At its core, it's often economic interests that motivate these actions, be it access to resources, markets for goods, or strategic trade routes. This is why we have to grasp the essence of commercial republic. It emphasizes that our economic interests are not separate from our political actions, but are deeply intertwined. Let's reflect on historical examples that illustrate this point. The United States' early engagement in international trade was not merely about exchanging goods, it was about establishing influence and securing independence. The Barbary Wars were fought not only for freedom from piracy, but also as a means to protect American commerce, an early testament to how deeply economics shaped political decisions. As we navigate through today's globalized economy, let's remember George Washington's words: commercial relations are essential to peace. This sentiment resonates now more than ever in an era characterized by complex interdependence among nations. Our survival as a nation relies on active engagement in global trade, not only for wealth creation, but also for fostering diplomatic ties. However, we have to ask ourselves critical questions. Are we prepared to uphold this legacy? Do we recognize the importance of supporting policies that promote free trade while safeguarding against monopolistic practices? As future decision makers, you have to understand that your choices will shape how America engages with the world economically. In examining contemporary challenges, from tariffs impacting international relations to debate over globalization, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Will we retreat into protectionism or embrace our role as leaders in fostering open markets? The answer lies within us, the next generation of thinkers and doers who will navigate these complexities with wisdom. Imagine, if you will, a fledgling nation standing at the crossroads of opportunity and uncertainty, a nation with vast potential but limited resources, grappling with the challenges of governance while striving to carve out its identity on the world stage. This was the United States in the late 18th century, a time when visionaries like Alexander Hamilton emerged as architects of a new economic paradigm. Today, I invite you to explore with me Hamilton's profound belief that commerce isn't merely an engine for wealth, but a bedrock for national strength. As we delve into his advocacy for mechanisms such as national bank and protective tariffs, let's recognize how his financial strategies laid the foundation for an economy capable of engaging robustly with the global market. Hamilton famously stated, "A national bank is a convenient machine to furnish the means of government." But what does this mean? In essence, Hamilton saw the national bank not just as a financial institution, but as an instrument of unity, an entity that could stabilize currency, facilitate trade, and foster economic growth across all states. It was his vision that propelled America toward financial independence from foreign powers and anchored its economy firmly in its own hands. Now consider this. What if we had failed to implement such visionary policies? Would our nation have been able to rise from its post revolutionary struggles? Would we have been able to establish ourselves as a formidable player on the international stage? These questions compel us to appreciate Hamilton's foresight in advocating for systemic structures that would ensure our economic vitality. In tandem with his support for a national bank was Hamilton's insistence on protective tariffs. He argued that by safeguarding American industries from foreign competition, we could nurture our nascent economy. This approach was not merely about protectionism, it was about fostering innovation and self sufficiency. It was about creating jobs and building communities through commerce, an essential element in shaping U.S. foreign policy towards active participation in international markets. Think back to Hamilton's contemporary Thomas Jefferson, who favored agrarian ideals over industrial ones. The tension between these two visions reflects an enduring debate within American society between isolationism and engagement, between self sufficiency and global interdependence. Yet, history has shown us time and again that it's through commerce, through trade relationships, that nations forge alliances, create prosperity, and ensure stability. As we reflect upon Hamilton's legacy today, let's consider how his principles resonate within our modern context. In an era characterized by globalization, where economies are interlinked more than ever before, we have to ask ourselves, how do we harness commerce not only as an avenue for economic growth, but also as a means to strengthen our diplomatic ties? How do we balance domestic interests with our responsibilities on the world stage? The answers lie within us, the future leaders who will navigate these complexities. We stand at yet another crossroads where our choices will define not just our economic landscape, but also our role in shaping global affairs. Imagine a world where borders are mere lines in the sand, where ideas, goods, and cultures flow freely across nations without restraint. Now, consider the opposite, a world stifled by isolationism and stagnant trade. Which scenario serves the greater good? Today, as we gather in this we will explore a pivotal element of our Constitution that not only shapes our economic landscape, but also defines our identity as a nation engaged with global community. Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations. This provision isn't merely a legal formality, it's the bedrock upon which our nation's economic prosperity stands. It highlights the vital importance of trade within American governance and underscores how deeply intertwined our economic interests are with international relations. Let's delve into this essential clause further. The framers of the Constitution understood that commerce was not just about trade, it was about connection between people, ideas, and nations. They recognized that for America to thrive, it have to actively engage in global markets. This foresight laid the groundwork for an economy that would become one of the most dynamic in history. Consider this: trade is often referred to as the lifeblood of nations. Just as blood circulates through our bodies to nourish every cell and sustain life, so does commerce circulate through nations to foster growth and opportunity. Without it, we risk stagnation, a fate too dire for any society aspiring to greatness. Rhetorically speaking, let's ask ourselves, what does it mean to be an American in a globalized world? Is it simply about consuming products made overseas or exporting our own innovations? Or is it about embracing a shared destiny with other nations, understanding that our fortunes are interlinked? The answer lies within Article 1, Section 8. It calls upon us to recognize that engaging with foreign markets isn't merely beneficial, it's imperative. History offers us compelling examples to illustrate this point. Take Alexander Hamilton's vision for America's economy in the late 18th century. As he championed industrialization and trade expansion, he laid down principles that would guide generations. Hamilton asserted that the wealth of nations could be harnessed through active participation in international commerce, a belief that echoes through time. As we look at today's global landscape, marked by rapid technological advances and shifting political dynamics, we have to acknowledge that Article 1, Section 8 remains more relevant than ever. Our current challenges, from climate change to economic inequality, demand collaborative solutions forged through commerce and diplomacy. Now, I want to explore a pivotal moment in American history, a moment that shaped the very foundation of our nation's foreign policy. Imagine a young nation just finding its footing in the world stage, faced with the tumultuous waves of European conflicts. How does it navigate these treacherous waters? The answer lies in a bold decision made by none other than George Washington, the Neutrality Proclamation of 1793. Washington's Neutrality Proclamation was not merely a political statement, it was a profound declaration of independence. It aimed to keep America out of the ceaseless conflicts that had engulfed Europe while simultaneously fostering trade relationships across the globe. This strategic approach recognized an essential truth: peace is the bedrock upon which economic stability is built. Consider this: by choosing neutrality, Washington understood that entangling alliances could jeopardize not only our sovereignty, but also our burgeoning economy. He famously warned against foreign entanglements in his farewell address, urging us to prioritize national interests above all else. But what does this mean for us today? How can we apply this wisdom in an increasingly interconnected world? Let's reflect on a rhetorical question posed by Washington himself. Can we expect to be free if we are not independent? In essence, he was advocating for self-determination, a principle as relevant now as it was then. By maintaining neutrality, America could build vital commercial ties without compromising its autonomy or getting embroiled in foreign disputes. Furthermore, let's draw inspiration from historical examples beyond our borders. Switzerland has long upheld a stance of neutrality amidst global conflicts, an approach that has allowed it to thrive economically and politically while remaining unscathed by wars that have ravaged its neighbors. What lessons can we glean from such examples? It's clear that neutrality can empower nations to cultivate prosperity while avoiding the pitfalls of conflict. Now let's consider the contemporary implications of Washington's proclamation. In an era marked by geopolitical tensions and rapid globalization, how do we strike a balance between engagement and independence? Can we foster international relationships without sacrificing our core values? Now, let's delve into a pivotal moment in American history, the Mexican American War. As we explore this significant conflict, let's consider a question that echoes through the annals of time. What drives nations to expand their borders? Is it merely land, or is there something deeper? A quest for resources, markets, and ultimately prosperity. The Mexican American War was not just a clash of arms. It was an embodiment of a philosophy that would shape our nation's trajectory, manifest destiny. This doctrine held that it was America's divine right to expand its territory across the continent. However, underlying this belief were potent economic motivations that transformed not only landscapes, but also the very fabric of American society. To understand the war's significance, we have to first recognize its economic implications. The United States emerged from its conflict with vast new territories, lands rich in resources and ripe for commerce. From California's gold mines to Texas's sprawling ranches, these acquisitions were not merely territorial gains, they represented gateways to wealth and opportunity. Consider this: in 1848, following the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the U.S. acquired approximately 500,000 square miles of territory that would later become states like California, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. This expansion aligned seamlessly with the aspirations tied to manifest destiny, a belief that echoed through every town square and saloon from coast to coast. But I ask you, was this expansion driven solely by a sense of destiny, or was it also fueled by an insatiable hunger for resources? The answer lies in our understanding of commerce as a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy during this era. As historian Robert H. Weib once stated, the American experience has been defined by an unrelenting pursuit of economic opportunity. The Mexican American War exemplified this pursuit, a struggle not just for land but for access to vital markets that would propel America into industrial greatness. Historically speaking, can we separate our national identity from our economic ambitions? I argue we cannot. Our territorial acquisitions brought with it new opportunities for trade and development, opportunities that shaped communities and fueled national pride. Moreover, let's reflect on how these economic motivations continue to resonate today. Consider how territorial disputes still arise globally, not just over land, but over access to resources essential for growth in an increasingly interconnected world. Now imagine standing at the threshold of a vast marketplace, filled with opportunities and untold riches. The air is thick with the aroma of spices from the east, the sound of laughter from diverse cultures intertwining, and the vibrant colors of goods beyond your imagination beckon you forward. This image represents not just a market, but a crucial turning point in history, the advent of the open door policy in China. The open door policy, articulated by U.S. Secretary of State John Hay in 1899, was more than just a diplomatic strategy. It was a declaration that America would embrace global markets for its prosperity. It aimed to ensure equal trading rights for all nations in China and sought to prevent any single power from monopolizing trade in this immense territory. This policy marked a significant shift, a departure from isolationism toward proactive engagement. Let's consider that this shift signifies, in an era where many nations were vying for influence over China's vast resources, America recognized that its economic future depended on access to these burgeoning markets. Just an open door invites guests into your home. So too did this policy invite nations into global economy, promoting collaboration over competition. What can we learn from this historical pivot? First and foremost, It teaches us about interconnectedness. In today's globalized world, where economies are interdependent and challenges transcend borders, be it climate change or pandemics, our prosperity similarly hinges on cooperation rather than isolation. Furthermore, we have to remember that policies like these do not exist in a vacuum. They are reflections of societal values and attitudes toward trade and diplomacy. The open door policy was rooted in an understanding that American success was intertwined with global engagement, a realization echoed by President Franklin D. Roosevelt when he said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Fear breeds isolation, engagement fosters growth." Yet, let's also acknowledge that while the open door policy opened avenues for trade and interaction, it did not come without consequences or controversies, such as imperialistic undertones and resistance from various factions within China itself. It serves as a reminder that our pursuit of progress have to be tempered with respect for sovereignty and cultural integrity. We, of course, have to discuss a pivotal moment in history that reshaped not only the United States, but also the global landscape: the Great Depression. This profound economic crisis exposed vulnerabilities within the doctrine of isolationism, a policy that had long been favored by many as a means of safeguarding national interests. Yet, as we delve deeper into this critical period, we will uncover how the challenges of economic despair prompted a radical shift towards recognizing our interdependence, a shift that laid the groundwork for initiatives like the Lend-Lease Act during World War II. Excuse me, I have to get some more coffee. The Great Depression was not merely an economic downturn, it was a clarion call that echoed through every corner of society. As unemployment soared and banks collapsed, Americans found themselves grappling with stark realities. How could a nation so vast and resource rich find itself in such dire straits? This question reverberated across towns and cities, igniting debates about our role in an interconnected world. Isolationism, the belief that distancing oneself from international affairs would protect us, began to falter under the weight of economic hardship. Imagine for a moment a ship adrift on an endless sea, isolated from others. It may initially feel safe, but as storms arise and resources dwindle, that very isolation becomes its greatest vulnerability. Similarly, the United States faced its own tempestuous seas during this era. As President Franklin D. Roosevelt famously declared in his inaugural address in 1933, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." This poignant reminder urged us to confront our fears head on, not just those of domestic instability, but those stemming from international dynamics. The reality was clear. No nation could thrive in isolation when global economies were intertwined. As we moved through the 1930s toward World War II, it became evident that economic partnerships were not just beneficial, they were essential for national security and stability during crises. The Lend-Lease Act of 1941 stands as a testament to this newfound understanding, an initiative born out of necessity that provided military aid to allied nations fighting against tyranny. It marked an unprecedented commitment to collective security, a bold step away from isolationism towards a recognition of our shared destiny. Why should this historical lesson matter today? In our increasingly globalized world, where challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and geopolitical tensions transcend borders, we have to ask ourselves, can we afford to retreat into isolation once more? Are we prepared to ignore the interconnected nature of our existence? Imagine a world emerging from the ashes of conflict, a world where nations once divided by war now unite in a common cause: economic stability. Picture the year 1944, where delegates from 44 countries gather in a quaint New Hampshire hotel, determined to forge a new international order. This moment marked the birth of the Bretton Woods system, a cornerstone of global economic governance that would shape our world for decades to come. The Bretton Woods Conference was not merely a meeting of minds, it was a declaration of intent. In the aftermath of World War II, nations recognized that isolationism could lead to catastrophic consequences. They understood that in an interconnected world, collaboration was not just beneficial but essential. As we delve into this pivotal moment in history, we will explore new institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank emerged from these discussions, reinforcing America's role as an economic leader on the global stage. More coffee. Let's first consider the IMF. Established with the primary goal of promoting international monetary cooperation and exchange rate stability, this institution has served a vital lifeline for nations facing financial crises. The IMF embodied a crucial principle: no country is an island. It reminds us that our economies are intricately linked. When one falters, others feel the tremors. As President Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. In times of economic uncertainty, it isn't fear but cooperation that have to guide our actions. Now let's turn our attention to the World Bank, an institution designed to reduce poverty and foster sustainable developments across nations. By providing financial and technical assistance to developing countries, it plays an essential role in lifting millions out of poverty while promoting economic growth and stability worldwide. The World Bank exemplifies how targeted investment can yield profound benefits, not just for individual nations, but for global prosperity as well. As we reflect on these institutions' functions today, I pose this question: what would our world look like without them? Would we witness rampant inflation destabilizing economies? Would developing nations remain trapped in cycles of poverty? The answer is clear. Without these frameworks established at Bretton Woods, our path towards global cooperation would have been fraught with challenges far greater than those we face today. Now let's consider America's pivotal role within this system. Following World War II, America emerged not only as a military superpower, but also as an economic titan, an architect of peace through prosperity. By championing, I've been speaking too much Portuguese lately. These institutions and their missions, America solidifies its influence over global economic governance while promoting ideals rooted in democracy and collective security. However, let's not forget that with great power comes great responsibility. A lesson echoed throughout history from leaders like John F. Kennedy, who urge us to ask not what we could do, our country could do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Today, I challenge each one of you: how can you contribute to fostering international cooperation? How can you advocate for policies that promote equal development both locally and globally? Now let's talk about the European continent, ravaged by wars, its cities reduced to rubble, its economies in disarray, and its people gripped by despair. This was Europe in the aftermath of World War II, a landscape that seemed to offer little hope for recovery. Yet, amid this devastation emerged a bold vision that would not only revive a continent, but also redefine the role of the United States on the world stage. Today, I invite you to explore with me the profound impact of the Marshall Plan, an initiative that linked U.S. foreign aid to economic recovery in Europe while simultaneously creating stable markets for American goods. Marshall Plan, formerly known as the European Recovery Program, was unveiled by Secretary of State George C. Marshall in 1947. It's often heralded as one of the most successful foreign aid programs in history. But beyond its humanitarian facade lay a strategic framework designed to bolster U.S. commercial interests abroad. Let's consider for a moment what it means to provide aid, not merely as an act of charity, but as a calculated strategy for mutual benefit. The United States recognized that helping European nations recover from devastation would not only restore peace and stability, but would also create robust markets eager for American products. In essence, the Marshall Plan was an investment not just in Europe's future, but in America's economic prosperity. Why did this matter? Because economic stability breeds political stability. By revitalizing European economies through generous financial support, over $13 billion at that time, the United States effectively laid down the foundations for democracy and free market systems across Western Europe. Nations like France, West Germany, and Italy were able to rebuild their industries and infrastructures with American assistance, transforming them into reliable partners in trade. Consider this analogy. Imagine planting trees in fertile soil with care and nurturing. Those seeds will grow into strong trees that bear fruit year after year. The Marshall Plan was precisely such an act, an infusion of resources into nations struggling to stand on their own feet again. Moreover, let's reflect on history, how history often repeats itself. We see echoes of these principles today as we face global challenges such as poverty, climate change, and international instability. The lessons learned from the Marshall Plan remind us that effective foreign aid have to be intertwined with economic strategy, creating not just beneficiaries but partners in progress. As we delve deeper into this historical example today, let's not overlook its broader implications for contemporary global relations. How can we apply these lessons? How can we ensure that our current policies reflect both compassion and strategic foresight? Imagine a world where borders blur, economies intertwine, and nations collaborate not just for survival but for prosperity. This is the essence of globalization, a phenomenon that has redefined our understanding of commerce and diplomacy. Today, I invite you to explore a pivotal example of this interplay, the, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. Through this lens, we will examine how contemporary trade agreements illustrate America's commitment to its identity as a commercial republic, an identity that intricately links trade partnerships with national security and economic growth. To grasp the significance of USMCA, we have to first appreciate what it means to be a commercial republic. America was founded on principles that prioritize commerce as a cornerstone of liberty and prosperity. As President Thomas Jefferson once said, commerce is the best remedy for war. In this spirit, USMCA emerges not merely as a trade agreement, but as an embodiment of America's recognition that our economic relationships are vital to our national security. But why is this connection so crucial? Consider this. In an age marked by rapid technological advancements and shifting geopolitical landscapes, countries are no longer isolated entities. They are interconnected through complex webs of trade. The recent pandemic has only underscored this reality, revealing vulnerabilities in supply chains while also highlighting opportunities for collaboration. USMCA represents America's strategic response to these challenges. By fostering stronger ties with Canada and Mexico, our two largest trading partners, we enhance not only our economic resilience, but also our geopolitical standing. As we engage in dialogue about tariffs, labor rights, environmental standards, and intellectual property protections within this agreement, we see how commerce can serve as both a tool for diplomacy and a shield against potential conflicts. Now, let's reflect on what USMCA offers beyond mere numbers on balance sheets or percentages in GDP growth. It signifies an ongoing strategy where economic interests align with foreign policy objectives, a harmonious symphony where trade partnerships become instrumental in fortifying our national security. As we navigate these complexities together, what role do we play? What responsibility do we bear? Are we mere spectators in this grand theater of international relations or active participants shaping the narrative? These questions bring us back to the heart of our discussion today. America's commitment to its commercial republic identity through agreements like USMCA isn't simply an abstract notion. It requires active engagement from all sectors, from policymakers crafting legislation to individuals advocating for fair trade practices. Fear often manifests when faced with uncertainty. the unknown inherent in global trade dynamics. Yet it's precisely through embracing these uncertainties that we forge pathways towards innovation and collaboration. Today, I invite you on an intellectual journey through the intricate tapestry of American foreign policy, a journey that spans centuries, shaped by visionaries and fraught with challenges. Our topic is the evolution of American foreign policy, from isolationism to global engagement. This isn't merely a historical narrative. It's a reflection of who we are as a nation and how we perceive our role in the world. Picture this: the United States in its infancy, standing at the crossroads of isolationism and engagement. The founding fathers envisioned a nation grounded in principles that emphasized the protection of national territory and natural rights. In Chapter 1 of our exploration, we see how sovereignty was not just an abstract concept, but a fundamental pillar upon which this great nation was built. As Thomas Jefferson eloquently stated, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. This vigilance extends beyond our borders. As we progress through the chapters, we delve into the essence of national sovereignty, the exclusive authority vested in our federal government over foreign affairs. Herein lies a critical question: how do we define sovereignty in an interconnected world? In Chapter 2, we explore this very notion and recognize that while our interests lie at home, they have to also extend to global considerations. Moving forward to Chapter 3, America emerges as a commercial republic, a landscape where economic strength shapes foreign policy. George Washington warned us against foreign entanglements, yet today we grapple with the balance between robust commerce and diplomatic relations. Are we prepared to engage globally without losing sight of our foundational values? In chapters 4 through 12, we confront pivotal moments that tested our resolve, moments like the XYZ affair that ignited discussions on national honor. Honor matters. It shapes public opinion and influences how nations perceive us on the world stage. What does it mean for America's honor today? Fast forward to significant doctrines such as the Monroe Doctrine, a declaration that solidified America's geopolitical stance in its own backyard, and events like the Spanish American War that marked our transition toward colonialism. Each chapter reveals how crises have molded our approach to international relations. As we dive deeper into history through World Wars I and II, we witness Woodrow Wilson's idealistic diplomacy colliding with harsh realities. The Treaty of Versailles serves as both a triumph and a cautionary tale about interventionism versus isolationism. Then comes the Cold War, a period defined by containment strategies against communism where nuclear arms competitions loomed large. We reflect on military interventions in Korea and Vietnam that force us to reconsider what it means to protect democracy abroad while safeguarding peace at home. In more recent chapters featuring leaders from Reagan to Biden, each president has left their mark on foreign policy, whether through confrontation or diplomacy, demonstrating an ever evolving landscape influenced by personal philosophies and global dynamics. Today's pressing issues remain complex. Terrorism challenges us from all corners of the globe, while debates about interventionism versus restraint continue to stir passionate discourse among citizens and policymakers alike. So, why does this matter? Because understanding our past equips us for future challenges. It compels us to ask ourselves, what kind of global leader do we aspire to be? Are we prepared for engagement, or will isolationism once again beckon? I urge you all to pick up The Evolution of American Foreign Policy, From Isolationism to Global Engagement, available now on Amazon Kindle for $9.18 or Google Play for just $7.50. It's time well spent exploring how historical lessons can illuminate pathways towards a stronger future for America on the world stage. Let's commit ourselves not only to understanding these principles, but also embracing them as guiding lights in shaping policies that reflect both our national interests and global responsibilities. This is a last minute addition to the script, but I guess Antifa, which I don't call them Antifa, they're not anti fascists. They are the fascists. So I call them the Brown Shirts 2025, are up to their old games again. They took over some university engineering building, protesting Israel, I guess, burning stuff and attacking a bunch of reporters because Riley Gaines gave a speech about men in women's sports. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not say this lightly. However, if the government is not going to protect you or your property, it may be time to protect yourself and your property. You have those rights: the right to life, the right to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness means you have the right to your property. If someone is damaging or destroying your property, you have the right to defend it. It may be time because the government is not going to protect you or your property. End of rant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Super Gringo Podcast. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to leave you with some thoughts that not only resonate with what we've discussed, but also challenges each of us to think deeply about our role in shaping the future. Let's take a moment to reflect on a powerful question. What kind of world do we want for our children? A world where educators are pillars of stability, empathy, and respect, or one where confusion and chaos reign, where classrooms become battlegrounds instead of safe havens? It's a stark choice, isn't it? We've explored how the individuals entrusted with our children's education have to embody the values we hold dear. Just as Socrates thrived on debate and encouraged critical thinking, so too have we to engage with the complexities of modern discourse. Yes, there will always be dissenters, those who label us or challenge our views. But let me ask you this: isn't it through these challenges that we truly grow? When faced with negativity or harsh labels like being called a Nazi for simply holding an opinion, we have two choices. We can retreat into silence or rise above it. I urge you to choose engagement. Let those labels fuel your passion for authenticity rather than stifle your voice. Remember Martin Luther King Jr., who faced relentless criticism yet remained steadfast in his mission for justice. He turned adversity into motivation, a lesson we should all embrace. And as we've discussed today, America isn't just a nation, it's a commercial republic, a delicate dance between commerce and governance that has shaped our identity on the world stage. From Hamilton's economic strategy to the Marshall Plan after World War II, history teaches us that trade fosters diplomacy and stability. So, why should we shy away from discussing how economic policies impact our national security today? Let's take action. Dive into discussions about contemporary trade agreements like USMCA, not just as passive observers, but as active participants, shaping policies that align with our values and interests. Our engagement matters. In closing, I want you to remember this: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Those words from Edmund Burke resonate more now than ever as we navigate the complexities of education, public discourse, and global commerce. So let's commit ourselves not just to listen, but to act, not just to critique, but to create solutions together. Join me in fostering environments where our children can thrive under guidance that's stable and nurturing. Thank you all for being a part of this important conversation in the Super Gringo podcast. Together, let's ensure that we are not just spectators in history, but active participants in shaping a brighter future. Until next time.